So we've heard everything about COVID-19 and vaccines, right? It's the #1 news story everywhere we go. Let's just face it, folks, that's what we keep hearing everywhere. There's a vaccine coming. In fact, the Russians have a vaccine. But what does that mean? What are the downsides to a possible rushed vaccine? And what does it mean for your overall health? We already have the great debate long before COVID-19 with vaccines in the anti-vaxxer community. There's a lot of famous people out there who believe vaccines are bad for you and have tied it into many things. But it's never been documented or proven. But when it comes to your overall health, as many of us have seen since March, we've all been focused on our fitness, right? You see people out walking, jogging, running. In fact, you know my favorite product I talk about all the time, Peloton, seeing an all-time high in usage. That's a word that we're going to go with today. We have a fitness expert returning today to share some insights into possible downsides with obesity and this possible and hopeful, fingers crossed, vaccine to make it so we can get back to normal after COVID-19. All this and more coming up next. And this is To The Point. Welcome to today's show. We got a good one for you. In the news the last few weeks, the last 2 months, we've been talking about COVID-19 and a possible vaccine. In fact, in the last 21 days, Russia has fast-tracked a vaccine. I don't know about you, but I can barely already trust those people. And now you want me to believe that they created a vaccine without any testing. Like, what did they test it on? Mice? Not people. They don't have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. We have these phases put into place in our country to make sure that we don't put out products that end up killing people, right? Because there's nothing worse than taking a vaccine and growing a second or third head. Nobody wants that. You also don't want the possible side effects that come with any of these. And we want to know what they are in case they do. Because as we all know, even the stuff that the FDA approves ends up on your TV where you're like, good God, I don't want to take something if it's going to cure my depression, but possible side effect of depression could be suicide. Well, isn't that the whole reason you're... Anyway, that's a whole nother discussion we're going to figure out on Big Pharma. But this is what we're talking about in the country right now, is these vaccines. So what I wanted to do is bring a fitness expert on to talk about the other side, because a lot of the talk and the folks they're looking for in these COVID-19 research projects to test the vaccine are people who are in healthy and good shape. I know some folks that are doing this, and why they're riskier than I would ever take a risk, because I already did the guinea pig stuff in the military where they just take a shot. We don't know what the hell it is, but you just put it in your system. We've already seen the effects that the anthrax shot has had on many of us. So I wanted a fitness expert to talk on about the possible side effects of a vaccine. Also, how it's going, the vaccine will fail amongst the obese community as America continues this downward spiral into being unfit, even during COVID-19, where so many people, including myself and my family, have been out walking and jogging and running, and fitness has been our goal, and eating right. It's been hard for so many people because, let's face it, the spectrum is far and wide. A lot of people have decided, hey, I'm just going to Netflix and chill on my couch with a thing of bonbons, and that's what I've been doing for the last 5 to 6 months. That doesn't work. You gotta get your butt up off the couch. So we have an amazing guest here today to break that down. So let's get to the point with today's guest, Mr. Edward Jackowski. Welcome to the show, Edward. How are you doing today?
Great. Good to be here again.
It's great to have you back on the show talking about everybody's favorite fitness, right? And I meant to ask you this question the last time, and I was talking to my beautiful wife, who you've met, and we had a great question for you. Now, you being a pioneer in the fitness industry, one of the few people who's been interviewed by some of the biggest names in the media. Now, COVID-19 has been bad. We know that there's a lot of deaths. But the one thing that I've noticed, and I don't know if it's a West Coast thing, but I know you New Yorkers like running and going everywhere. More people are outside, being active, doing stuff, I guess occupying them time by fitness. Does that warm your heart at least a little bit to see so many people deciding there's two ways that you could take this boat and drive it? You can be the person sitting on the couch watching Netflix, doing nothing and feeling sorry for yourself, or understanding that if you go outside, get that fresh air, some exercise, get the blood pumping, even if it's a walk, right? Just walking 30 minutes a day, does that warm your heart at least a little bit as a pioneer in the fitness industry? Seeing people taking that kind of measure, like, you know what, I'm not going to be stuck in my house. I'm going to go out. I'm going to exercise. At least I'll feel better and not end up, getting obese.
The answer is yes. It's great to see people out there. The problem, though, is there's a caveat to that. It's like I've answered it with a, question mark. And the reason why is the following. People are perhaps more active today, Eric, but they're substituting that activity for fitness, and they're not synonymous. So people are taking a walk, but they're not getting their heart rate up.
Yep.
They're not stretching. So they're not really building their immune system up as much as they can. So the answer is that it's great that people are moving more, but interesting, people are heavier today than even pre-COVID. So what's happening is that we're eating more because we're stressed. And also remember, there's an expression in life, misery loves company.
Oh, yes.
The less you move, the more you want not to move.
True.
Because you're tired. So at the end of the day, what happens is that you've challenged your mind, whether it be through business, whether it be through running a family, if you're a stay-at-home mom today, stay-at-home dad. So your mind is challenged, but the body's sleeping. So at the end of the day, at 4 or 5 o'clock, it's like, all right, Bob, Susan, you got to move today. The thought of that is so exhausting because you think you're tired. You're not. So the best nap that you can take is to get out and start being active and then warm up to moving more aggressively. So it does have a place, Eric.
I love it.
The more active you are, it gets you in a mindset and it wakes up your body and get those endorphins going so that you could go to the next level.
Absolutely. And I love that's a good way to kind of segue into what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about this vaccine that's coming out. Well, we don't know when. We keep hearing about it. As you may or may not know, Russia announced just a few short days ago that they have a vaccine. Mind you, it hasn't been through the strict testing that we do here in the States or most first world countries do. They fast-track this thing. Just like any other thing, vaccines are dangerous. We've seen that, especially if they're not tested properly. You don't want to grow a third head, or like I said in my monologue, I'm always afraid when I listen to the pharma side effects, and like one that always makes me kind of cringe and chuckle at the same time is the one where they're talking about depression. And they say one of the side effects of this pill, if you take it for depression, is that you may have suicidal thoughts. And I'm like, that's not what you want to give somebody with depression, and this is past the FDA. I'm scared of that. But one of the things I'm seeing and reading in the research, and I have a buddy who's actually been selected to go through the testing of phase 3, was saying that they're looking for people who are physically fit, which was an interesting, made me jump into some research. And seeing in research, I guess if you're heavier or obese, I guess I use heavier because that's just a word that people seem to use that makes everyone feel warm and fuzzy without saying that people are obese. But obesity becomes an issue because I guess vaccines have a harder time if you're not in shape. I'm not a scientist, nor am I in the physical fitness industry. As you know, on my past attempt on a national TV show that you and I were mistaken for each other. where I was asked a fitness question and I gave the standard Marine Corps answer to how do you lose
Which
weight?
was correct.
Yeah, I gave
it was correct.
Do the daily 7. But my question to you is, where do you see this vaccine fitting in with obesity, and how can people do it? I mean, vaccines are scary as all, but how do we tie that in to physical fitness?
Well, we'll backtrack to about 1985. In 1985, there was a study done about how months later with hepatitis B, the people that were given this vaccine that were predominantly obese, the effectiveness was not as good. And no one jumped on this really until about 20 years later, actually maybe 30 years later, where they noticed that people that were obese were not, let me say, put this in a very nice way, their bodies were not accepting the vaccine for a simple influenza shot, as well as those that were more fit, or more importantly, not obese. Because you could be obese and also be fit. There are a lot of people out there that are 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds overweight, but they get their heart rate up every day, Eric. They're doing either yoga or intense exercise, but they're clinically obese, just like you could be 5'6", weigh 120 pounds, and be considered obese, which a lot of people don't know. So let's clear what obesity means. Obesity means that if you have a body fat percentage of 30% or more, then you are considered clinically obese. That's why someone could be thin, but can be obese. But we don't look at that person as, we're never going to look at someone and say, oh my God, that person's obese, because you don't know what's going on under their garments. Yeah. So I think this has more to do with not the thin obese people, but the heavier set obese people, because what happens is that that extra fat allows our bodies to have inflammation. That inflammation also comes with people with diabetes, especially type 2 diabetes. So when you take a look at the percentage of people that are obese today in this country, which is between 40 and 45%, now you take a look at those people that also have diabetes and other immune, perhaps, issues, you're looking at about maybe 7 out of 10 people, Eric, that are going to be able to take any vaccine to perhaps, they're not sure, but to perhaps realize the full benefit of whatever vaccine you're taking for whatever disease and issue outside of COVID. They don't know about this, about COVID, but they're expecting that the same percentage of people are going to have difficulties. So that's where we're at. And if that doesn't motivate you to get in shape and have better eating and fitness habits, then of course nothing will.
That's kind of the story for everything when it comes to fitness, right? I mean, COVID isn't the first thing that we've had jump forward and should awaken America for getting up off the couch and getting in shape. I mean, COVID should have automatically caused that in you, because it feeds off the very weak. We see that, the folks that are older, the folks that aren't staying in shape. I mean, a lot of people that I know, besides being elderly or already having, pre-existing conditions, some of the folks that I see, then people are like, oh, they're in good shape. And I'm like, are you sure that they're in good shape? Because some of these people haven't stepped into a gym or eaten right. They'll be the guy, if you go look at their social, they're, chowing down on a Big Mac.
Yeah, you look at them, right? Yeah. We look at a visual of a person, and if they're not heavy set, let's just say that, yeah, then in our mind, we're like, oh, they're thin. If a thin person or a slender person or a person of normal weight in a social circle says, oh, I got to work out, everyone comments, you don't need to work out, you're not fat. So we don't realize what we say. We use working out as the main reason to not being fat. And that if you're not fat, then you don't need to work out. All you need to do is take a look at the professional athletes. If you want to talk about if you're not sure if being in shape helps you, I haven't heard one professional athlete that has unfortunately been stricken with COVID that has had complications since. I might be wrong, but I don't know of any. Do you?
No, you are absolutely correct. When it comes to it, there are positive tests. That has happened. I mean, the Florida Marlins, the St. Louis Cardinals still haven't played a game since July 28th, but they're not in the hospital. Just famously, just a few weeks ago, the head coach of the Chargers talked about he was positive for it and what it felt like. He said he kind of felt, but he worked out, so he didn't know if it was old age and feeling sore from a hard workout because he had done some crazy weight throws. He was doing Olympic lifting, and he was like, I couldn't tell if it was just tightness of chest from doing, some cleans, or he goes, I was testing, so I just went and got tested and found out I had it. He goes, it just felt bad and like it beat me down for a couple days, and I just quarantined myself, but I still was doing push-ups, just trying to push myself. So you're right. A lot of these pro athletes, even, they come back. They're not in hospitals. That's a true, I mean, to me, that's what I keep seeing. I mean, everybody I see with it that is healthy that got it just because they're a physician or a nurse, first responder, they're usually in pretty good shape, and they get it and they're like, yeah, it sucked, but it felt like any other flu that you may get during and I'm not, by the way, anybody out there who's watching, I am by no means saying COVID-19 is equal to the flu. I'm saying this particular set of people who are working out, what Edward and I are talking about, is what I'm talking about. So please don't send me hate mail.
Yes, that's important because, listen, anyone can get this, whether you're healthy or not. We buy insurance. This is a great thing to mention. We buy insurance policies and health policies and disability policies. Well, you know what? A good disability policy to tack on that doesn't cost a lot of money is working out. And I am always amazed that when I travel, I hate traveling and working out because the gyms are never really good and this and that. So you need to have different routines. That's another day, another topic. But I'm amazed that when people have to pay a $25, $30 fee to go work out, they refuse to do it. They're traveling, but you won't spend $30, Bob or Susie, to get your fat ass in shape, but you'll spend $100 to feed your you-know-what. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable. Yep. So we as a nation, it's not just this COVID thing where it's going. That's the least of our issues coming up. Everyone is pre-diabetic today, which is not even counted in the 35 million people that have type 2 diabetes. We have become a nation of, it's okay. If you don't like to do it, don't do it. And that's what has happened. The accept me movement is, it's okay. It's interesting, isn't it, Eric? We don't do the accept me movement outside of how we look when it comes to education. Your kid comes home from school one day. You have children. Your kid comes home from school one day. Little Johnny's crying. Why are you crying, Johnny? Oh, the kids made fun of me. They call me fat. Oh, that's it. We're moving. Yep. They can't accept you for the way, rather than sit down and say, Johnny, it's okay. Don't worry about it. You know what? Let's start making some changes with each other. Let's start moving together. Let's start eating better together. Just like if your kid comes home from school and is in a bad mood and crying, you say, why are you crying, Johnny? Oh, I got an F on my report card. That's it. We're moving. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to get the kid help. Yep. You're going to try to educate him or her better. You're going to try to spend more time making sure that Johnny's doing his homework. And if Johnny doesn't understand doing what he's doing, you're going to try to put him in a better place. But we've become a nation where we're not allowed to better ourselves physically. Women, especially women, are not allowed to better themselves physically. We have to accept the way they are. And that pressure and that socialization pressure is also harming and hindering everyone of all ages to be better.
Yep. I think that's a perfect, and you bring up, and I talk about it often on this show, I guess because I'm in marketing and I own one, but perfect example, remember in November, way back 500 decades ago, which was November 2019, Peloton, which we say Peloton now and you think cash cow, Peloton was attacked for their commercial of having a woman on a bike her husband bought it for, and they're like, oh, he said she must be fat. And I'm like, well, that sucks, because that commercial came out about 32 days after I just bought a Peloton for my house. My wife actually wanted it for her birthday. You've met my wife, you know what she looks like. And I'm like, so no, I didn't give it to her because I thought she was heavy. I was like, we like to work out. Sometimes our schedule doesn't make it to go to a gym, but you can hop on a bike and you can move, get that blood pressure up, get the blood pumping for 30, 45 minutes. Riding a bike is proven to be great cardio. It's like jumping rope. I jump rope. I know you do. I mean, I love jumping rope. It's fun. It's you could do it for a very long time, get your heart going.
Right, but the perception is that if the woman got the bike for the husband, that would be okay.
Exactly.
Honey, you put a couple pounds on. I want to keep you alive. I want to keep you healthy so you can bend down and play with our children. I want you to be able to run after the bus if it's late in the morning.
Yep.
I mean, that's such a terrible thing. So
it's such
our priorities have to be rearranged.
Yeah.
And we need to have messages out there that it's not about being thin. It's about being fit. And if you're going to be overweight, that's okay. But be fit and be overweight so at least you're healthy. That's all.
Yeah.
It's a very simple message.
It's true, but I think a lot of people miss it, Edward. I mean, we have you on the show. Every couple months you're on here. We're talking about fitness, and still people probably fight it. We've got messages that come in. Oh, why does it have to be the heavy people? And I'm like, well, because other people are doing. I don't understand why people don't want to be healthy. If you have children, if you have family, your goal, I mean, it's proven. If you're healthy, you will live longer, long as you're not tragically killed by a terrorist, some random tidal wave, or a random shooting, or a car crash. You're going to live a long life if you're eating right, being healthy. And we had a specialist on our show, and we were talking not only physical fitness, but how it ties into mental. And we'll tie this right back into COVID-19. And here's my question for you. We've seen a very high suicide, a report came out talking about a higher suicide attempt rate or thoughts of suicide during COVID-19. Now, as somebody in the military world, and we talk about PTSD, that is also proven two things make us military folk feel better. We love to laugh at things that we probably shouldn't. That's why we have a weird sense of humor. And exercise. Exercise gets all those positive things that you've talked about. It clears your head and it puts you in this right mind, like you crave it. I went 2 days without a workout a couple weeks ago because I hurt myself and I couldn't work out. My back was all acting up and I was like, I'm going to lay up. I mentally was fine with it. I was a little pissed off I couldn't work out, but I did it to myself, doing yoga of all things. Like
I bet you didn't sleep as well.
I didn't sleep good, and I was off. Like the chemical, you know how you have that, like you don't work out for, like I take a day off from training if I work out hard. I still do stretching, so technically I'm working out, but I don't go and like kill myself after like.
Yeah, because you're mild exercise, and then you combine that with intense, and it evens out based upon your energy level that day.
Yeah. So I do that, but it's funny how people don't understand how you feel better when you end up putting that endorphins that go firing into your body when you get a good workout in, that your heart is pumping. Explain to folks why that is such a, why that goes hand in hand, mentally and physically, working out and what they can do. Let's make it easy. Let's break it down Gumby style, as I like to say. 30 minutes, right? I know the Apple Watch famously will tell people if you're hooked on your device, and I wear one, it tells you all you got to really do is work out for 30 minutes because that's a good time. And I've heard that even in the military. And I know CrossFit is built between 30 and 45 minutes. A lot of workouts are built that way. What can people do to get started? Like simple, get your heart going, kind of get yourself set that you can do in your
That's
house.
a good question. So two things. One thing prior to that. The first is that as people are going back to gyms now, the evidence also suggests that if you're in a public area, you should not be working out with high intensity. So when you think back what you told me about the Diego coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a place where other people are also breathing here and there, you want to keep those exercise routines to moderate to maybe moderate high intensity, because when you work out very hard, your system actually breaks down for a couple of hours. So you're more susceptible at that point. Now, if you're alone and you work out outside and you're not around anyone else, you can afford to work out more intensely. So that's a good tip for people to realize. Okay, so 30 minutes, the ultimate workout for 30 minutes is, I'm going to give you two workouts. One is if you want to drop weight, and the other one is if you don't have weight to lose and you need to strengthen your body more. So obviously you can't work out the same way if you're right and get both benefits. So cardiovascular is number one, flexibility is number two. So a stationary bike for 10, 15 minutes, stretch 3 or 4 minutes, do some old-fashioned sit-ups, do some push-ups, or if you can't do a regular push-up, you could do push-ups on your knees, a couple 3 to 5 pound dumbbells, move them for high repetitions, get your heart rate up, and maybe jump a little rope. If you can't jump rope, do an interval on the bike in between, bang, you're good to go. That's for weight loss. For strengthening, you can do bench press, push-ups, squats, warm up for 5 minutes, then stretch for 3 minutes, because you don't need as much cardio because you don't want to lose weight. You want to add mass or muscle to your body. So you want to do more of anaerobic and strength building moves and more flexibility. People that need to add mass on their body typically are more inflexible than guys like you or me. We have natural good flexibility because we have more fat in our bodies, and fat is pliable.
I like that.
Interesting, right?
That's really interesting. So let me ask you this, as we kind of wrap up this interview. New York is opening gyms, or supposed to open gyms. And we're seeing it throughout the country. We won't just pick on New York here. It leads to an interesting conversation. We've seen it's come to light during COVID, kind of made you start going, oh, well, wow, in a gym, I don't think about breathing out, and everything I have in my mouth goes flying out as a particle over all the weights. And nobody had been cleaning those for quite some time. I can tell you I've been to several gyms where people would breathe out and do all that heavy breathing.
And it was accepted. It was socially acceptable. If someone didn't wipe down, remember, if someone didn't wipe down your machine, you'd get on the machine and you'd be like, oh, what an idiot. They didn't wipe down the machine. Let me do it. So you would do it. That can no longer ever happen again.
No, it's weird. So what do you think is the future for gyms? I mean, a lot of people depend on them. They're not like some of us. I mean, we have a full gym at our house. We built it on purpose just because of our schedule. Leaving our house and going to a gym doesn't always work. I do miss not having an Olympic-sized pool. I love swimming in a pool. So we don't have that. That is one of the heartbreaking things that I'm dealing with personally, is like I don't get to hop in the water and swim because I love it. But what do you see the future of gyms and people working out?
Circulation. Circulation is the key thing. Aside from wiping down and disinfecting. The air that is being circulated, you have to make sure that you have really strong filters, like they're using on the airplanes now, Eric. That's the key, is circulation.
Sweet.
And of course, we're assuming that people are going to wipe things down and this and that. But circulation is the key. I would recommend to anyone, if you could work out near a window, the window is open. If you could work out outside, combine it with going inside a little bit. Let's see what happens with that to go to the next level. Because until then, I think it's still a bit risky, Eric.
Yeah. Well, so let me ask you this. It leads kind of to a bounce off question. Let's be real. We've both been in gyms. You've owned gyms. You know the person that is most likely wiping things down is also happens to unfortunately be probably one of the worst paid people in the entire gym. It's a job no one likes to do. I've watched people even pre-COVID I was sitting in the health club. I was over lifting, and I watched this person come over, and they're supposed to be wiping it down. And of course, the military guy, and they're like, it's like, oh, like every third thing maybe got some spray, maybe. And
you're pulling their tooth out or something.
Right? It's like it's torture. So, I mean, let's be real. Are gyms going to be able to contain? I think it's exposed a real problem. Number one, gyms don't really do it. Like the airlines, right? I mean, Delta has the bragging rights.
What a great question, because I just talked to a manager of a well-known gym in New York City yesterday, and I asked her that question. I said, who is going to police? That's the word. Who's going to police the gym to make sure people are doing all the things that they need to be doing? And I said, I've got a great idea. You need to hire a troubleshooter. That troubleshooter only job is to walk around to make sure that people are social distancing, following all the health codes, and to interject when someone doesn't do something in a nice manner, Eric, rather than being obnoxious, because it is the service industry.
Yeah.
To say, hey, Bob, you forgot to wipe down your dumbbells.
Yeah.
Here, let me help you. Let me get you a couple of wipes. If we handle it that way, then yes. I'm now consulting with these gyms on exactly how to put that protocol in and training their employees. I'm doing it through Zoom and Skype on what they need to be doing from the minute that the member walks in. How is he or she treated? Do they know what's going on? And I'll leave you with one last thing. Spray bottles are out. Here's why. If you're working out and you're on a treadmill and someone 6 feet away just got finished on the elliptical, let's say, they now go and take the spray bottle and spray these vapors in the air. Do you know what it is to breathe in Clorox or Windex or anything fantastic when you're working out? Do you realize how sensitive your senses are? I know or food. How about when you walk into a gym and someone's eating lunch at the front desk? The worst thing that you could do. So my recommendation for these gym owners is to hire a troubleshooter, A. B, all moist wipes easily around with a dry wipe to wipe it down after, because that's another disgusting thing, is getting on a machine after someone sprayed it and it's still wet. I mean, that's a real big turn on, isn't it?
That's disgusting.
So all these things that we're talking about, although you don't think are important, they're going to make the difference of these gyms succeeding and thriving and not.
Amen to that. I love that insight, because that's been one of the leading questions, even as I start seeing my travel schedule. I'm trying to not travel just because I do some traveling, but New York is a place I love to go, obviously being in the media and obviously us being now a network show. I like to make sure that I'm available to go to New York. Obviously need to use a gym. it's scary because very few are handling that. And then I always go back, last time we were in New York, we were able to go to Peloton headquarters, which, by the way, Peloton is completely different. Watching them wipe down, that's like a team. Like, they literally have one guy who goes through and sprays, is cleaning everything, and then they have the dry down person, right? The person who's literally doing what we're complaining about. And you get off that bike, and there's people right now. Now, Peloton still currently does not allow people into their facility, which I don't think gyms should be open right now until we have this down, because we're depending on other people. The airline industry is showing that it can, some airlines, let's be clear on some, let's not say all, because I've heard complaints. I'll preach Delta because I've flown Delta since during COVID. I've never felt like, number one, I don't know why the plane wasn't clean before, but now you can smell a difference, see a difference. It's just clean, like, sweet.
And the attitude is the environment, not the attitude. The environment is different.
Yep, I agree. But Edward, I just think it's kind of crazy. But anyways, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I want to thank you for again joining us and coming in with these awesome quick tips and hits on everything, talking about obesity. We'll have you back as this more and more news comes out on this vaccine, because people need to still maintain their health. And then we have winter coming up, and everybody thinks that they need to pack on like they're a bear or something and pack on all this winter weight. So we'll definitely have you back, because we have my favorite holiday is it's weird to say this in August, but a few short months away is my favorite holiday, which is Thanksgiving, because it's food.
Mine too.
I love that day.
Yeah, love it.
We'll have you back and we'll talk about that.
We're not allowed to put on 7-8 pounds this holiday season because we've already put on 15.
Yep.
as it's not just, by the way, it's not just here in America. Yeah. And you know what? It's okay. People have to understand. Listen, if you're going to be addicted to something, food is a heck of a lot better than many other things. We don't need to get into that.
Yep.
So if you want to eat, just move more, and that's how you counter it. Absolutely. And you have the best of both worlds. But you can't just keep feeding your. Look, I love chocolate brownies. So once or twice a week, I'll eat one or two. Do I want to eat 12? Yes. But what stops me? Well, I want to get up in the morning and be able to move. That's what stops me. I want to play with my 6-year-old son, Lucas.
There you go.
Which he's very active. So you got to be on top of your game.
Heck yeah. I appreciate your time today, bud. It's always good. We'll have you back as we get closer into fall. Talk about things that we could do for our fitness in the fall. It's all important. On a side note, before you go, I thought of you the other day when I saw that they now have travel jump ropes that don't have the full rope. They just have a little ball in the end. I was fascinated by that. I was like, that's pretty darn cool, because I love jumping rope, but it's hard to take that. And even if you're going to do it in your hotel room, I always end up breaking something or hitting something, because at a 6-footer, it's difficult. And then I was thinking of some of the folks that we know in the NBA, and I always laugh when I used to go to the arenas and see the 7'2" guys with a jump rope. And I'm like, could you imagine those guys jumping rope? I mean, they already need a lot of space. You got to think about what the rope size is on 7'2". So it's cool that they saw those. So I was just thinking, I was like, Edward, because I always think of your photo with you jumping rope down, Madison Avenue there. So it's.
Well, thank you. And when I first started that whole craze, jumping rope has been around for over 100 years, but it was primarily used for athletes, specifically boxers, for footwork.
Yeah.
No one had ever experimented with it for weight loss. So when we were getting our patent and we were getting our trademarks, we would take two groups of people. One group that would do a routine with the jump rope, and one group that did it without the jump rope. And the people that did it with the jump rope not only lost the most amount of fat, became more aerobically fit, plus better coordination for women and men, but more so women. It was the only thing that removed cellulite from their bodies. So then I'm like, ooh, I'm onto something. Yeah. Then I wrote a book about just how to jump rope, et cetera, et cetera. But there's so many different ways that you can utilize the jump rope, not just from a cardiovascular perspective.
I love it. Well, again, bud, thanks for joining us. We'll have you back real soon. And everybody else will be right back after these messages. thank you for watching today's show. As always, if you'd like to be a guest or you know somebody that we should have on our show as a guest, feel free to email us at hello@tothepointtv.com. We look forward to hearing from you. And you can also email us if you have a complaint, want to give us kudos, high fives, or if you have an additional question for a guest. Feel free to email us again at hello@tothepointtv.com. Our Twitter is up and running, and it's for social good, not yelling and screaming political or anything else crazy on our Twitter. So follow us on Twitter at tothepointtv, and we'll tweet back at you. And as always, we want you to check out our IG. We love Instagram. Our Instagram stories are up, they're buzzing, and they're meant for you. We love our fans and followers, and we want you to know who our guests are coming on, and we want you to engage with us, and we want to engage with you. So make sure you're following us at Instagram at tothepointtv. Now, we love you on Facebook, and we want to make sure, because you're probably watching this on Facebook, you're like, why would you already follow us? But tell a friend that they can come follow our show and never miss a live episode. As you know, here on Facebook, make sure you head, if you're not on Facebook watching this, then it's different, but our Facebook is To The Point with Eric Mitchell. So make sure you follow us there so you always get notified when our show goes live at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Now, for the folks over on YouTube. Now, YouTube, we love our YouTube, and our channel is growing, and we love you there. Now, if you missed the live show at 12 p.m. Eastern, you can catch the premiere, which is re-recorded. The premiere on YouTube goes down every day at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, and simply just go do that. So remember, with YouTube, what we want you to do is smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and flick that bell. That's right, hit the bell. Give that bell some bell love. And that way you know when we're on air and you can catch our latest episode. Check out our playlist. All of them broken down by the day and the guest and show, so you can always stay up to date. Once again, on behalf of the entire team here at To The Point, we want to thank you for, again, tuning in and watching our show. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow on To The Point. As always, I am your host, Eric Mitchell. Be safe, be strong, be smart, and God bless America.
Let's get to the point with Eric Mitchell. Let's get to the point. Sit and enjoy. This is Eric Mitchell. He the host of the show. Get to the point. He is the voice. We needed this, something more. This a daily show that's known for politics and the sports. Ain't no limit to whoever you may see at this point. To celebrities, Eric he's beast in the joint. As a veteran, put him at ease, then anoint. Every conversation can never be disappointed. Whether tragic or it's happy, Eric will cover whatever's happening. Whether it be a gymnast, toe tapping, talking about nearly any athlete, not taking a back seat. You're never gonna get it past T. Everybody running from it, it's a stampede. But he's on it like this man who took that knee. Mr. Mitchell's way too crafty.